the Brooklyn Nets have clinched a playoff berth for the third straight season. And Frank, they are 22 games over 500, and that's significant because in the history of the NBA franchise, the high watermark they've ever reached is 23 games over 500, so they're one shy of a franchise mark. Yeah. It seems like we've been talking about franchise records all season.
And they beat a team that they have struggled to beat over a number of years now. And there was a pivotal, they were down 6 points in the fourth quarter. They went on an 18-5 run, and Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving scored a combined 0 points during that run. So yet again, the Brooklyn Nets, Steve Nash, getting contributions from role players, because in that run, Harden is on the bench, Kevin Durant's not scoring, neither is Kyrie Irving. It was a bunch of role players leading them to victory.
And we've seen this happen because of all the injuries this Brooklyn Nets team has had across the year. But Jeff Green has been a constant all season.
Yeah, he really has been terrific. 22 points tonight. And the thing about Jeff Green, he just scores in a lot of different ways. You want to run him off the three-point line. He pump fakes, he gets into the lane, but then that corner three, another one late in the game, which essentially iced it for them. But Jeff Green cutting to the basket. How many dunks did he have tonight? I guess they were saying Joe Harris had his first dunk of the season. Jeff Green, it seems like he has about 2 of those a game, and he's usually posterizing somebody.
Uncle Dunk, Jeff Green, 22 points, 8 of 16, 8 boards, 2 blocks. So Green was definitely involved tonight. He really got the Nets going. Kevin Durant, too, he started out slow, 7 points, 6 boards in that first half, Frank. But KD, he had 10 points in the second half.
Yeah.
It's not like he had to do a lot. Not a lot of the heavy lifting tonight. It was the secondary and tertiary players that did it.
Yeah, and by the time he came into the game, the Nets were basically, I'm talking about in the fourth quarter. They were essentially in control by then. He only scored 7 points in the fourth. He only finished with 17. So for me, if I'm the Brooklyn Nets, I'm thinking, I won a game on the road against a team we never beat, and I got 17 points from Kevin Durant, and I only got 9 from Kyrie Irving. That's pretty darn good, and you still hit the century mark without really getting major contributions from guys that you're sometimes looking at. The last game you played, Kyrie had 34, Kevin Durant had 33. Tonight, 17 for Kevin Durant.
Heading into the postseason, I know the Nets have dealt with a lot of injuries, but they're in first place in the Eastern Conference. How much does that help this team, Frank, that the injuries were there, they were present, and they were able to get all of these bench players some time? Now, look, if everyone's healthy, they're not going to get the same rotation minutes that they're getting now, but how much has that helped throughout the season?
And it's amazing how many different players it's been. They've had a lot of players on the roster. Guys have come in on 10-day contracts, and you look at a guy like Alize Johnson, who they eventually end up signing. Nicholas Claxton starts the season on the bench. He's made contributions. It's been so many different guys. Give Steve Nash and that coaching staff a lot of credit for the way that they've managed the roster. Also, the front office, led by Sean Marks, bringing in players who it seems like every time they bring somebody in, if you don't contribute, you're either moving on or you're going to sit for a while until you can contribute. But there's been so many different guys. Even a guy like Mike James tonight, he was their leading scorer in the fourth quarter, for crying out loud.
Yeah, and he had no points going into the fourth quarter, and he did that damage. Let's take a look at some notes of this Brooklyn Nets team. They snapped that 11-game road losing streak to Toronto that Frank was talking about. Third win in their last 23 regular season games overall. 22 games over 500, which we mentioned at the top, and of course they clinched the playoff berth. And they actually clinched it, Frank, before they even won tonight, because Boston lost to the Oklahoma City Thunder, who lost 14 straight games. They win tonight, and Charlotte loses to Milwaukee.
It's really amazing what has happened to Boston, because Oklahoma City had lost 14 straight games. And for Boston to lose that game at home, you can only imagine what's happening up there. It's crisis central right now for the Boston Celtics. But we knew the Nets were going to clinch. It's still, again, a nice accomplishment. And there are different steps every championship team goes through. The first one is just getting into the playoffs, which the Nets have done. They're not going to have to play in any kind of playing game. So if they lost every game from now until the end of the season, they don't have to worry about that. But we know what they're looking for. They're looking to be the #1 seed. You're going to catch a break in that first round, because you're going to be playing a team that had to play their way in the play-in tournament. You're going to have home court advantage throughout the playoffs. Right now, they are sitting in a terrific position. And remember, too, something we really didn't talk about, James Harden is on the trip, and he's working out, which means that he's got to be getting a little closer, too, to finally getting back out on the court.
Well, Steve Nash has done a tremendous job, and they brought in Blake Griffin as well throughout this season. And Frank, we talked about him in the pregame show when we were standing right over there and how he hustles. And this was one of those hustle plays that his dad was probably very happy with.
You know what? You want the ball? Get on the floor and go get it. And every game, Blake Griffin seems to do something like that. I thought he took a charge tonight. The referees called it a block. They did review the play, and to their credit, they did say that it was a block on Blake Griffin. But once again, it's not only these points inside. He tied the game up at 90 with about 8:51 to go in the game on a three-pointer. And then after OG Anunoby gave Toronto the lead, it was Joe Harris that gave the Nets the lead for good. But look at the numbers and look at the production from Blake Griffin yet again.
And this is small doses of Griffin coming off the bench. How key has he been in his run here with the Nets? That was his 16th game that he played.
And remember, when the Nets first brought him in, we were wondering, when is he going to play? Because he wasn't hurt. It's almost like the Nets wanted to get him up to speed with where they were physically and also mentally. He has made huge contributions, and again, it's about sacrifice. He was a superstar player in this league who's now had to adjust the way that he thinks about himself as a player, the way other teams do, but he knows he can make a contribution to a team that's trying to win a championship. How good has he been as a role player? When you have a guy like that who can score, is going to rebound, can score from inside, and can also knock down threes. And he dunks, too.
And he knows his role, which is also very key. When we come back, we're going to step aside, take our first break here. We will hear from head coach Steve Nash right after this break. We will also combo postgame once again, Frank. We'll be showing some Yankee highlights and some Yankee sound from their game down in Baltimore tonight. Corey Kluber with a great start, his first great start of the season. And we'll also head back down to Barclays Center and get the final thoughts of this Nets game from Ryan Ruocco and Sarah Kustok. It's all